Western North Carolina businesses, they need your financial support now more than ever in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. This month, Darby Communications, based in Asheville, North Carolina, is donating its ad space here on the Rock Fight to help other outdoor businesses in Western North Carolina get back on their feet. The outdoor industry is a major contributor to Western North Carolina's economy, and Darby Communications is asking people to donate to the Outdoor Business Alliance Hurricane Helene Relief Fund, which supports outdoor industry businesses in their recovery and supports their staff as they rebuild in the wake of the storm's devastation. Now is the time to help the outdoor community help build back what we lost in Western North Carolina. Head to outdoorbusinessalliance.org and click Donate Today to get started.
Rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight.
Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and joining me today, he roots for the Dodgers. I'm wearing a Fenway Park hat, but today we're united because Juan Soto fucked over the Yankees. It's Justin Hausman! I'm so happy about that.
I don't know. I don't know why I care, but like, God, it's like this contract might be the one that sets me over the edge in terms of like, what are we doing here with money and sports?
You have the other guy.
Yeah, but he's worth it in ways that like Juan Soto never will be.
Oh, that's true. This guy, he's going to be like 41, making $50 million a year or something stupid.
Yeah, he's going to be DH in like 2 years.
Maybe
like,
next
he's
year.
already a shitty fielder, and it's like it doesn't make any sense. And he's not like He's not like a huge marketing figure. Like Dodgers have probably already made $1 billion just from Shohei's like marketing.
That's
like,
true.
No one's buying anything because of Juan Soto.
I'm happy
15 years.
It is long and stupid, and you're right. It's like that's a good point. There's upside. There are other upsides that Ohtani had that Soto doesn't. But I love that the beleaguered, Mets fans get something to hold over to the Yankees fans, and the fact that he was on the Yankees and he's like, nah.
Oh, that's it. I wonder how often that happens.
Not very.
Like where free agent moves from one to the other.
Not very.
It does, but yeah.
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 But anyway, good job, Juan Soto. Way to fuck over the Yankees. We're a fan of you today. So today we're going to talk about some outdoor headlines that come out over the last week. But before we get to that, we want you listening to the show right now, who, if you haven't already, and why haven't you already, follow the show. You got to rate the show. You open up your phone, you're listening to us on, you got your little podcast app there. You click follow and then hit 5 stars. That's all you got to do. We make the show for free. It really helps us out. So, and also, you should subscribe to our newsletter. It went out today. Went out right like hours before we're recording this.
Yes. I didn't have time to finish it.
Look at that. So, we have top-notch content that you get here on our podcast. You can also find that stuff in our newsletter with content in there you can't find anywhere else. So head to rockfight.co and click join the mailing list. And now I think Justin's going to tell you how to reach out to the show and tell you about our other show. And I mean, what are you going to talk about, Justin?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we you may be listening to it, but we're recording another show called Gear and Beer, where we I'll let you guess what we do on that show.
What do we do in that show?
We drink beer. We talk about gear.
We don't drink the gear.
No. Well, could beer ever be considered gear?
Sure, there's a lot of water in there, right? It's important. It's like
Is
nutrition.
water considered gear?
Well, nutrition.
I mean, I guess you could consider it like a hydration pack.
It's an essential.
Or something like that. Yeah, like a bottle of beer is like a hydration bottle, I suppose. There's probably minerals in there that might help on a vigorous.
You can
outdoor
clean
activity.
out wounds because there's alcohol in it.
I guess I would. We can't legally say that on the show, but if somebody wants to try it, you could let us know. And we like to answer your questions about gear on that show. So you can email us any gear questions, any beer questions, or just general feedback at myrockfight@gmail.com, and we will do our darndest to answer those questions for you. When I say we, I mean Colin.
All right, well, let's get into some stuff today. Today, we're going to start with a little gear chat, all right? Because per SGB Media, Claris, the parent company of brands like Black Diamond and Rhino Rack, has acquired, quote, certain assets of Rocky Mounts, a Colorado-based... Certain assets. They didn't want all the assets.
Three photos that they can use.
Yeah, it's like, we looked at everything you got. We'll take those 2 right there. So Rocky Mounts, it's a Colorado-based brand that focuses on bicycle transport products, basically bike racks. This announcement made me think about when brands matter and when they don't matter when it comes to outdoor stuff. Because for the most part, I really have zero preference for a category like bike racks. I basically am looking for a function. Like, there might be a brand that I kind of like, but I'm not going to say I'm a Thule guy or I'm a Yakima guy or whatever it is.
Totally.
Like, right? It's just like, no, that if either one has what I want, then that's great. I will say, though, when I lived in Colorado for a year, Rocky Mounts were everywhere. And I definitely got one because at the
Are
time,
they
anyway,
based in Colorado?
Yeah, they're Colorado.
You already said that. Yeah.
Yeah. And like and this was 2007, so I don't know what the state of it is right now in Colorado. But like at the time, they had cool colors for your roof rack for your bike, and it was very cool to have a Rocky Mounts rack. So I don't know though. Maybe think about like I want to ask a certified gear guy. Like when does brand actually matter? Because there are definitely times when I am like that's my brand. I like that stuff. But this is a situation where like Rocky Mounts they're cool, but if I got another brand, I probably wouldn't care.
I mean, I've had 3. I've had Kuat, Thule, and Yakima bike racks.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of cool when I had the Kuat just because everybody else has like Thule and Yakima. So, I don't know.
Yeah, the contrarian thing plays in here, right?
For sure. You'll see Rocky Mounts around here in Northern California too, but not that often. I never really thought about them as like a brand that people would get like fired up about, but it makes total sense in Colorado. I mean, I'm assuming it's the case in San Diego and probably everywhere else. I mean, to me, the only bike brand, I would think that the only bike rack brand that people get fired up about is One Up, right? Like that's
right. Which I don't even know that much about. Like they're relatively recent, aren't they?
No,
within the last
not
10
really.
years.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. I mean, and the founder sold it and went off, and he's making, I forget what his new one is called, but it's like a very similar design, but a little different. It has a different name. But I mean, like, God, every Tesla around here, if it's a Tesla and has a bike rack, it has a One Up. If it's a if it's a nice luxury SUV and has a bike rack, it has a One Up. It's like it's a status symbol around here. I think
is that the aesthetic though? Because like, isn't there sort of like a bit of a utilitarian kind of look to the One Up rack?
Yeah, and they're like they're like super burly and like I don't know they're really easy to use. And I don't know they don't like the Yakima. I've had. My Yakima and my Thule are, they were fine. The Yakima was fine. The one I have now is a Thule, and it works fine, but there's a lot of plastic parts on it, and it's, it doesn't feel like it's going to be around forever, and it's the same, it's still like $900. I forget what the helium or something. It's really lightweight, really easy to use, looks fine. I can pull it off and on, weighs virtually nothing, which is, all that's great, but like, at some point the plastic's going to fail. And like the One Up is like all metal, it makes a lot of sense. But I feel like One Up is definitely like a status brand. It seems like. I mean, people that don't really, they buy one because everybody else has one. That's what looks cool, and it's like a serious mountain bike.
But if everything, like all things be equal, and like you get stuff because you do gear reviews.
Yeah.
If you could just say, no price is an object here. You get it for free. Whatever. Which one do you choose? Is there a brand that you care about more than another? No.
Nope.
What categories do you care? Like what's a gear category? You're like, no, I do care about the brand.
That's a really good question. I mean, it depends on what you're evaluating for. If it's like performance, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's that like the style is going to work for you, that's one thing. I would say like for backpacks, Osprey. Like I know going in that like I won't have to question anything about an Osprey pack. I mean, lots of backpack makers make great packs, but like for that, like Osprey, it's as if they were like making packs for tall, like slender dudes, because it just fits me really well. I've always loved the way they're engineered. I just like I'll always have an Osprey pack. So like to me, like they're like a leader there. Same thing with like Patagonia waders. Like I just know I love them. I know they're going to work great. Like it's utilitarian though, in the same way that like I don't care about a bike rack. It's in the same way. Like I don't want to care because I won't have to think about it. It's kind of like that with brands that you do like, right? It's like I don't want to have to think about this. I know that these work. But it really just depends.
Gear makes a bit of a difference, though, right? Because we talked about it with like when the Millet conversation, we had that, and kind of like the apparel side of it. Like that's kind of you almost can swap so many things in there on the apparel front.
I see what you're saying.
Gear for like Osprey, well, you might love it, but maybe it fits me a little weird compared to another brand, right? So that's different. Yeah. Like it even. But it is funny how these things get in your head. Like we did the episode of Gear and Beer recently about the Coast, headlamp that you can speak to. And actually, I got it right here. That's like the one thing now. Like I will absolutely seek out Coast now when it comes to lighting because I like this product so much.
It's thoughtful and it's cool. Yeah, no, for sure. So I don't know. Maybe it's not even like. It is interesting. Like, at what point does brand turn your head? I mean, you'd think it would for me with apparel, but it really doesn't because I don't care.
Yeah.
Like if does it look good? Cool. I don't care who makes it. Does it work? Cool. But like tents. I'm a Nemo guy. I just know that I love Nemo tents or Sea to Summit. I like them both. But like I just appreciate the way that they go about making their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They always like I guess if the brand has a point of view, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like Nemo stuff. It's hard to describe, but like Nemo stuff is always really well engineered. It's really well thought out. it's never the lightest thing in the game. It's never the burliest thing in the game, but like they've got their like little avenue and it's really well done. So, they nail it. And Sea to Summit is very similar in that regard. I mean, and, you can tell they're making things for a certain kind of outdoor person.
Yeah.
And like so if it, someone who wants nice stuff, who isn't climbing Everest, who isn't trying to like set an FKT on the PCT and needs like whisper light products, who just wants something good that looks modern and well made, boom. Like that's me. And so that's like, I know Nemo does that. I know Sea to Summit does that. Other brands do it too, but I know that they do it really well. Boom. And they've like, I'm loyal to them because I like their stuff. So like, that's kind of how, that's when brand matters to me. Like if they've expressed a point of view in the stuff that they make and it resonates with me, that's it. That's really all it takes. But like for some reason that doesn't really happen with bike racks because they just hold a bike.
I guess probably the quintessential conversation is vehicles, right? Car brands, stuff like that. Like why? Because you definitely have. We've had conversations around vehicle brands, and you're like, I fucking hate that brand. There's
I'm more likely to dislike a brand than I am to like a brand. Than I am like it's easier to be like I just don't like those brands than it is to be like I love this one, if that makes sense. Especially in cars, because it feels to me like every single car maker is dropping the ball. Like at least in terms of what I want from a car. And so like I'm not brand loyal at all. I mean, I've had a million Toyotas. Yeah, they're great, but like I don't care about like the new Toyotas. Like I love my Nissan Frontier, but I'm not like a Nissan guy. I loved my Subaru. I mean, if Subaru's probably my favorite car brand, I guess.
Well, okay, let's say your Frontier like just died today. Like
I wouldn't like.
What would you go? What would you go get? What's the first stop that like you would go looking for a replacement truck? Would it just go right back to Nissan?
Honestly, probably another Frontier, just because they're way less expensive than the Tacomas, and I like mine better than the Tacoma. So yeah, probably something like that.
And it's not like I'm not like trying to connect dots here just for the sake of a podcast conversation, right? Like because it's kind of a similar thing to the outdoors. Vehicles are now they all work. They're all reliable for the most part.
For the most part,
right? It's kind of like outdoor gear. It's like it's all the same. It's like so it really comes down to like which one do you like? I mean, I chose the Maverick because like that's just kind of the truck that I would. But probably
that's also
drive.
a pretty unusual one. There's nothing else quite like it. So.
That's a good point.
I'm just not a brand loyal person, generally speaking. I mean, I'm not like food, beer, anything like that. Like, not really.
I just think I think these conversations are missing with the brands themselves. I don't think a lot of times there's a lot of self-reflection on why people like their brand, and people just kind of assume like, oh, we're this brand, we know we do it the best, and everyone wears our stuff from head to toe, blah blah blah. And it's like, but why? I mean, the reason why Rocky Mounts was cool is because that was the front rack, that was the Colorado rack. When I moved back to New England. From Colorado, I thought it was really cool that I had a Rocky Mounts rack on there because no one in Boston had a Rocky Mounts rack. Like that was cool.
Yeah, but I mean it's like that's a bumper sticker. You know what I mean? Like you could like that's like the like. It's not that you're just like, hey, I used to, this. I guess maybe the contrarian thing because you have something that's different,
right,
or the fact that you like people might ask you, oh, are you from Colorado? Like whatever.
Yeah.
Like you have. That's kind of what it's doing there. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard too when I get so much of this stuff to test or whatever. It's like I don't really have I guess it'd be different if I was buying all these things. Like brand loyalty would be probably different because it's like I only have so much money to spend. I'm probably more likely to return to the same brand. Although I don't fucking know. People, it's like returns are so easy. Like it doesn't. You can still like I don't know. Maybe even the concept of brand loyalty is the problem. I mean, why does anybody care?
Well,
the brand doesn't ultimately care about you. Like they just want you to buy their stuff. It's not like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just like,
totally.
Why am I loyal to any brand? Like you shouldn't be.
Probably shouldn't
like
be.
That's,
why should I wear your logo on my chest? But I guess the last thing is it pertains to to Rocky Mounts because it's like they're acquired by Claris, who already owns Rhino Rack, and they might own another one too. But like what's the difference between what Rhino Rack has and what Rocky Mounts has?
Maybe it's a regional thing, right? Like people buy maybe nobody buys Rhino Racks in Colorado, and so they're like or something. Or if they're only acquiring certain assets, maybe it's like a technology that they can't replicate without a patent or something. I don't know.
Maybe it's just the name brand, and they're going to put the name on Rhino Rack stuff. It's probably the trademark is what they acquired. I bet you that's all they acquired. The
maybe.
Trademark. Yeah,
it's just to me, it's like the more I dig into any industry news. Obviously outdoor specific, because that's what we talk about here. But it just seems like owning and running an actual business is. I realize that's what we're doing here, but where you're selling something, like a product, just seems like an absolute goddamn nightmare. It's like you're like constantly having to you can't relax. Like the foot has to be on the gas, especially if it's something that's not like Yeti. Yeti would be still making a ton of money if they still just made 3 coolers and didn't do any marketing. Like they'd be fine, but they wanted to be like this giant thing, right? So they have to make 1 million products. But like unless you're making something that speaks for itself and you don't really have to like worry about it, like I just can't like the just constant having to like search for like new like avenues because like your stuff's drying up and people are losing interest. It's just oh my god.
Well, that's a really good point. I mean, some of the conversations after we talked about the whole Yeti Mystery Ranch thing, you know, a lot of people who are like lamenting, like, oh no, we're losing Mystery Ranch. But it's also like, hey, think of the guy that brand's been around since the early 2000s. I think how stoked you are if like you built that up, someone came along, paid you out for it, and it's like, yeah, it's your baby, but it's also at some point, do you want to just be sitting on with the same anxieties that you just described of like running a brand? At some point, it's like, hey, good for them. Like if Yeti, and now Yeti owns it, if they want to like get rid of the trademark and just make Yeti packs, well, they can do that. It's a bummer. I'm not saying it's not a bummer. It's a cool brand you don't want to see go away, but it's also like, that's kind of how this goes in business, right? So at some point, you know, if you're in that ownership position, because you're right, it is all the stress. It does fall all to you, right, to make all of those decisions. So it's nice to see some people get rewarded for that at some point too.
Yeah, that's true. I've never faulted people for selling. I don't think. Maybe a little bit.
You definitely
Usually
have.
It's probably just envy when that happens anyway.
It's like, God damn it! I should have started a pack brand and sold it to Yeti 25 years from now. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
All right, so next thing was another thing that caught my eye this week. I saw it on Instagram. So Outside Online ran an article about Davis, West Virginia, which is a mountain town that you probably haven't heard of. And that's how they described it in their article. This is the mountain town you haven't heard of. And isn't it great? And there's one traffic light and there's like, you know, like barely any places to eat. But boys, they have great access to trails. And now there are 2 kinds of articles that is a staple of outdoor media that probably has been like this for decades. You know, the one is this is the big mountain town that's dying and you got to pray for the locals in the face of the rich people moving here story. And then there's you've never heard of this mountain town story. So this one's the latter. But it was in the comments on the Instagram post that was supporting the story for Outside that wanted me to bring this up today because the overwhelming majority of them had like one thing in common. So hold on, I got the thread right here. This is what people were saying. You guys really find some peace in quiet towns and think, wait, not on my watch. No one knows about this place, so let's make sure and tell everyone.
Yeah.
Let's make it unaffordable. And there goes the neighborhood. Outside magazine ruining every good small town one by one. Stop the madness. Yep. Articles like this are ruining the thousands of small, cool towns with an overage of tourists. I'm like, okay, but is that really happening here?
I wonder. I mean, Patty had a great parting shot, Patty O'Connell, when he was on the show a few months back, where he was getting mad at people that like in ski towns for for like trying to like close the door behind them. I have so many like. First of all, like the point, like I don't know what the point. What is the point of a story like that? I mean, it's kind of like a travel story, right? But that's only interesting if it's like, I went to this place and here's what I did and blah, blah, blah. This is not that. It's just kind of talking about what it looks like and what you can do and why it's cool. I don't really know what the point is.
I mean, I guess if you go visit Davis, West Virginia, then maybe that was the point.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I pointed out, like, there are 2 ways they go about this. It's the, like, you know, here's Park City and like, oh no, the locals are getting squeezed out or whatever, you know, Aspen put in your town, or let's highlight the small town. And by the way, I think the reaction from a lot of people were basically the same no matter what it is. They're mad that you're talking about their town. We all feel like,
I think that people who live, other than San Francisco, I've lived, I imagine we're going to live in Marin County for like the rest of our life. And that's not like it's not like it's a hidden place, but my small town in Marin County is not like particularly like, it's not like one of the notable towns, right? It's not the ones that like people have heard of.
Right.
And I have seen a lot of changes in the 5 years that I've lived here. Mm-hmm. And so not a lot, which I don't like, you know, and like the people that like came before me, the people who lived here for decades are really up in arms about how different the town is, right? Like this used to be a paradise, like of like 70s freewheeling, 60s and 70s freewheeling, anything goes.
But that's dead everywhere.
Yeah, good point. So yeah, I guess that's true. So I don't know. I guess I'm of 2 minds about that kind of thing because it's like, I do find it interesting. Like I clicked on that and read it. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been to West Virginia. I wonder if I've ever went there. And I kind of imagine how cool it would be to be in a little town like that. And I absolutely love telling people how cool my town is.
Right.
I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's the coolest town in the world. I'm super proud of it. But like if I was worried about getting priced out, I probably wouldn't be super excited about articles like this. I mean, that has to be happening.
I don't know.
It has to be.
So the thing you're describing is like, it's not a secret. We've talked about on the show that I've lived in a lot of places. And I feel like everywhere I've gone, I've heard the same thing. Park City was the same thing. Like, oh man, that plaza wasn't there. It was so much better when. Everything is always it's so much better when. Even since we lived here in San Diego, it's like, oh, you should have been here at this other time when it was better.
San Diego's way cooler than it used to be as far as I'm concerned. But,
right.
yeah.
But the point is, like, I think that's a people getting old thing more than it is like an actual thing. Yes, things change, but things are going to change. And by the way, when you were younger and it was different then, the old timers before you were telling you about like, well, that was just a field for 1,000 years before we built the thing there, right?
Sure.
That's the way it is. That's progress. Take it up with the world and and the country if you have a real issue with it. I just can't.
There is some difference in that it wasn't back. Even 20 years ago, you couldn't be like, oh, Davis, West Virginia, that's cool. I'll move there and buy a house.
Well, that's true. Nobody was saying that. You're right about that.
That is different now. That really is different. I mean, like when I went down to my home zone, Central Coast, a month or so ago, we stopped at this little like place I'd actually never been there before. I'd driven past it a zillion times out on a country road. It used to be kind of a just like a steak diner kind of a thing. But it's been bought by somebody else. It's been revamped and now it's very modern.
Yeah.
And like we pull up and there's like Teslas and like people in like nice sweaters and like glasses, like Warby Parker glasses. Like I don't know where these people live. Like where did you come from? Like this was not this did not exist in this town 20 years ago, right? And it's like, okay, on the one hand, cool, they have like more money and there's like more people from outside the area and they're like supporting places like this. I mean, that's great. But on the other hand, if you grew up in that zone and there was a particular flavor and like style of life and like pace of life and affordability that's gone because people that can work remotely can reach it now. I mean, that's detrimental. I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I mean, the reason that people like talk shit about Truckee is because of all the people that can afford to live there who are rich from the Bay Area money. Right. And like change the nature of the town. So I get it. I do get that. And I also feel like, but I don't know what I guess I understand the frustration, but I also agree with you that that's also just the nature of life, right? Like, it feels to us like things are changing and things are, we're losing grip on something, but it's always felt like that to everybody, like we're no different.
So I guess I'm not saying it can't happen or doesn't happen. And I think like, I'm not sure like what exactly you're talking about or the example you gave, but like Truckee's a good example probably, right? Because it's like, this is, but it's a mountain town near ski resorts, like all of these kind of desirable things around it. I kind of think like with
you aren't going to keep people out of there forever.
Right. Yeah. And I look at something like a Davis, West Virginia, where they're saying that basically it has one or none, traffic lights. Like it's a very small community with probably very little reason why you would move there for a job or anything. I would actually think that probably the biggest outcomes of this is that maybe some people do go there to go mountain biking or enjoy the trails there.
And they buy some sandwiches at the local deli.
Right. And like to Patty's point, like enjoy that. Like that's good. That's good for your economy. And if the occasional person does come in from out of town and like buy a house, like that's probably not a terrible thing too.
No,
it just feels like this is not the secret surf spot or the secret camping spot. Like this is the small town in West Virginia, and everyone's freaking out that we're like saying, "Hey, you might want to go visit this place." Like I know I'm defending outside here, but it's a little like everybody settle down on this one.
No, I mean I agree. I think there's a reflex of kind of like, oh, here's the thing I can kick because people like it when this gets kicked.
Sure.
Like it's fun to sort of join into the fray, I guess. And I don't necessarily think of towns the way I do surf spots. But not entirely. I mean, I don't know.
There's a gray area. I'm not saying there's not.
Yeah. I can't. That's true. I mean, like things can.
I guess I think there probably needs to be more than just like somebody writing about it, right? Because you think about Bentonville's a good example. Like who knew about Bentonville?
But everybody loves what's happened in Bentonville,
right?
But like maybe Bentonville sucked before.
It probably did. It was probably like, oh, that's where Walmart is, and that was it. But then Walmart's like, let's dump a bunch of money into this and make it a cool place, and now it's a cool place, and everybody wants to go there.
That's the conversation I always have with people. Is like, where are people stoked about now that we don't know about? Like where is the? I guess Davis, West Virginia might be one of them, but like where are the places that like 30 years ago had like cool cafes and bike shops and stuff, but like you didn't know what it was.
Right.
And like it was cheap to live there. And like is that still a thing? I don't know. And so
Portland.
like I think a lot of people lament the loss of that. And so when we see things like this, we feel like it's just contributing to like further losses of things like that. I mean, no one's building more houses and there's more people than there used to be. So like that's going to be an issue anywhere, And
totally.
So, it just so happens that like we also tend to think of, I don't think people realize that like it's only been like well, since the 50s, really. So we're getting, 70, 80 years, but like where you could like move around and go to wherever you want because of things that you like to do.
Right,
Like
right.
we're still kind of learning how all this works, right? Like it's like
100%,
post World War
yeah.
II, everything changed, and it's like, okay, now we have obviously like people aren't tethered to certain cities anymore. So we're going to see what it looks like when people spread out. And like, that's just going to happen, folks.
Yeah.
This article's not going to really probably. This is just a tiny little piece of it. It's a super interesting conversation though. Like, I do love the idea of covering like mountain towns that we like, right? Because it's fun to share them.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
at the same time,
Other
like,
people need to
I don't
see
know,
this place.
I'm sure we'd get shit for that. I'm sure we would.
I also just realized I'm kind of picking a fight with the internet by bringing this up because it's like this is total internet behavior. Like, fuck you, don't talk about this town. Do you know where it is? And I have no idea where it is, but you shouldn't be talking about it.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I looked at the pictures. Doesn't look that cool. It looks fine.
Well, that's back to your original point is like, why are you highlighting this place? No offense, Davis, if anybody's from there is listening, but it's like I wouldn't worry. You're probably okay.
I mean, like, so you're it's a town with like really not much. It's got 4,000-foot peaks around it and like a bunch of mountain bike trails. That's basically everything from here to fucking Alaska. So
right.
Going north for me, but cool.
If there's one thing that unites every member of the outdoor and active community, it's that no matter what your favorite outdoor activity is, we all burn calories and we all need fuel. And that's where Fuel Goods comes in. Fuel Goods is the ultimate curator of nutrition for active people everywhere because no one knows more about how you should fuel for your adventures or how to get that fuel into your hands than they do.
Let me ask you a question. How do they know what I like though, Colin?
Well,
if they try to fuel me with a bunch of like raisins, which I don't hate, but I don't love, like I don't want a box of raisins.
This isn't like a Minority Report situation where they have somebody like, would they read your thoughts? What were the weird things in Minority Report? They were predicting the future. Sorry, maybe that's the wrong pop culture reference.
They were reading your thoughts and predicting the future.
Yeah, there's not like one of those. You do get to choose, and then they have like little things you can match up. You can do a custom box where like you tell them what your activities are and what your goals are, and then they'll like recommend things for you to have. So it's not like.
So do they have it? So do they have a precog option though, where someone can just imagine what I might want to eat at various points in the future, and then send that to me?
Only if you go
before I even realized it.
Only if you go through the eye replacement surgery. That you have to do the whole Minority Report experience for this to work for you.
Okay. All right.
So right now is prime time for fueling, guys. Over the next month, we've had turkey trots. Now we're gonna have Santa runs and Frosty 5Ks, along with the temptation to refuel using all the desserts and holiday staples that will no doubt be in your home for the remainder of the year.
We're working through some of those right now.
What do you got? What do you got going on?
Some stale Christmas cookies that we made last weekend.
Excellent.
Really, that's it.
My wife came home with one of those tins of like the Dutch butter cookies.
Oh, those are
so good. I'm like, that's one of the classics. Like, why don't I have these all year? Because they're delicious. I don't know why we only get them in December.
Yeah, that's true. You get sick of it. Let's same way with the Christmas tree. It looks nice in your house all year long.
So Fuel Goods has done the hard work of assembling a delicious and effective assortment of products that can help you fuel your next event and adventure. And if you're overwhelmed, you can order up. This is for you, Justin. If you can order up one of their pre-assorted boxes, like the famous Rider box or the one that started it all, the Runner box. And then when you're done shopping for yourself, hey, order a Fuel Goods monthly subscription as the perfect holiday gift for that calorie-deprived adventure in your life. Justin, I'm hungry. Are you hungry?
Yeah, actually I am hungry.
Yeah, I'm kind of hungry too. Head to fuelgoods.com. Start shopping today.
That would be really good. That would be a nice holiday gift.
The precog box?
Yeah, well, especially that. God, that'd be amazing.
All right, let's head into the House of Hausman, where we take a deeper dive into the work of our favorite outdoor journalist and Rockfight co-host, Justin Hausman. So this week, Justin, on nationalparkstraveler.org, you wrote about an important ruling that is coming up regarding the status of grizzly bears in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. What's happening in Yellowstone?
So for years and 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 years now, like Wyoming and Montana and I guess part of Idaho, like the states that are wrapped up in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, have been trying to get the feds basically to delist grizzly bears from the endangered species list. Which
just because they want to hunt them, or like why?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, yes. I mean, I think part of it might be just like a states' rights, like sort of like reflexive kind of like kicking the balls to the Department of Interior, which manages the grizzly bears as an endangered species, or as a threatened species under the Endangered Species Act. And so, I mean, I think part of it just they want state control, but I mean, Wyoming has already made it clear that like basically the second that they're delisted, they're going to allow hunting.
Okay.
Like they almost did a couple of years ago, and like a judge had to step in to like block it. But yeah, I mean, this has been a football. All right, it's just been a like back and forth thing. So they were basically I think it was Wyoming like successfully sued to like force the Department of Interior to make a final decision about or whoever runs the Endangered Species Act. I guess U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service must be.
Okay.
Whichever governing body does that, basically like force them in like the next 90 days to, are you delisting this shit or not? And like they've been a really good success story. Like they've come back. There's like 1,000 bears in that area. There was like 100 before. Like I read through these big reports about how all the categories that they needed to hit before it was considered like a successful reintroduction program. And everything's been fine. Like they're doing great. I mean, bears are not under any kind of threat, it seems like, at all in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. So like it makes sense that they would be, delisted. But the second that the government says maybe we'll delist it, you get like a million lawsuits from environmenal organizations and like like wildlife animal groups that are like, no, fuck that, And so but it's like, so that's what's going on. I think it's January 20th is when they have to make the ruling. And so if the National Park Service decides to delist them, right away there'll be hunting like tags probably issued in Wyoming, I guess, right away. Now, I just cannot fucking fathom why you want to hunt a grizzly bear is my thing. I mean, I guess I get it in the sense of people are attracted to like game that's dangerous and big and powerful and scary and wow, no one's been able to hunt grizzly bears in a long time. And I got the first, I mean, I do understand that aspect of it, but like, I mean, fuck. It just seems like these things are amazing. Like, why would you want to just go like shoot one? I don't get it. I mean, if their population was out of control and we needed to cull them for various reasons, sure. But that's not going to be the case. It's just that, now there's enough to support a little bit of hunting, and it's not going to be a ton. And like the money goes back into like conservation. I'm not anti-hunting. It's just like certain animals. Like why? Like I'm not a huge fan of hunting top of the food chain things. It just seems really strange to me.
Right. Well, to your point, we are talking to Rochelle Schrute, who's a journalist for Gear Junkie, and she primarily covers hunting, right? It's kind of her thing. And she's also a rock climber and things like that. We should make sure we bring this up with her because like that is because she had written a thing recently about, hunting mountain lions. And I had a similar reaction. Although then I have to admit, there was a photo of like some like little fillets of mountain lion that looked.
I've heard it's real. I've actually heard mountain lions delicious.
It looked delightful. Then I'm like, well, maybe it's not so. But you're right. There is a weird thing of that kind of. Why are you going after that one versus like, oh yeah, hunt the deer? That makes sense. It's just,
and again, that's like it doesn't make like I hunt all the deer you want. I don't care. But for some reason, I bristle at like bears, and I honestly, it's probably like an anthropomorphic thing. They seem closer to me than a deer does. So like, it makes me a little uncomfortable. I mean, like I don't know. You watch bears long enough, they just look like fat people. Like a deer. You never look at a deer and go, "This Chad reminds me of my uncle." Like ever. But like every bear, if you watch it long enough, will remind you of somebody that you know. So it just seems strange to me.
There must be poaching going on, right? There must be a handful that get poached every year, I would imagine.
Well, I don't know about grizzlies. You don't hear about that very often. Occasionally, but not often. Like mountain lions for sure,
right.
Like hunted where they're not supposed to be. Wolves is kind of a thing. That's actually happening as well in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem right now, where there's wolves that move. It's difficult where. This is the other thing that, and I touch on this in the article. So the greater Yellowstone ecosystem is like, obviously like Yellowstone National Park is a heart of it and extends, it's a big broad range.
Okay.
Big broad area. And, I forget how much bigger it is in the park itself, but it's just like the park is in the center and there's like this big rough oval-ish shape around it of all like, it's not all untouched wilderness, but generally speaking, it's the ecosystem of which it's a unique-ish ecosystem. So, but the bears move in and out of the park. And so the issues that you'll have sometimes is like people will shoot an animal outside the national park and it will like run into the national park. And it's like, what do you do? Like this is, and like Rochelle will be able to talk about that a lot. Like that can be a really big issue where people will hunt like on the periphery of preserves or parks or like, there'll be issues. Now I guarantee that if this goes through, there'll be issues where people will, someone will be accused of possibly like chasing a bear out of the park to shoot it, when it's outside, all that kind of stuff. Cause you won't be able to hunt. You can't hunt in national parks anyway.
Right.
So like that kind of thing comes up. So there's a lot of weirdness there, but so the bears like move in and out of the park. So it's like they don't. I don't know. It's just strange. Like they're protected in the park, but they're not protected 50 feet that way. It's just a strange.
Yeah, right.
It's a strange thing, and like these
there
are
needs to be some gray area.
And like bears seem like sentient animals. It just it
sounds like a thing. You're like hanging out talking to bears.
I do. There's a bear in my I'm becoming what Jeff Treadwell, is that his name? The Grizzly Man?
It only works after you've had these weird mushrooms that you find in your backyard. Then all of a sudden,
It's all
the bears are talking to you.
It's all the prednisone I'm on. I'm hallucinating.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then when we get back, it'll be time for the parting shot. For years, outdoor brands have shouted to the skies, each claiming their gear is better, tougher, and smarter than the next. They bragged about seams and fabrics, about features you didn't need. And when the world started caring about the planet, those same brands tried to have it both ways, making the same old stuff, but slapping on a green label to soothe the conscience. But Livson isn't like the rest. Livson was born to help you strip it all down, to live with intention. Own less, live more. It's a simple creed, but simplicity is what matters most. We've been timeless since before we even had a name. Livson grew out of a deep hunger for freedom, a love for this earth and the people who walk it. We don't obsess over the gear, we focus on the life the gear lets you live. Retailers, think on this. How many brands do you carry that are cut from the same old cloth, filling racks with sameness? Couldn't your floor use something different? A brand that doesn't just sell clothes, but sells a way of being? Livson gear is built to last, to be repaired, to stick with your customers for a lifetime of trails, peaks, and adventures. In the Ozarks, we have an honest, gritty sensibility with a sharp edge of style. It's what happens when the love of the land meets a modern streak. And if you're wondering, Livson's founder, Andrew Gibbs Dabney, can explain it better than anyone. Look, here's the straight talk. We believe in Livson enough to put our name on it. Send in your Fall 25 preseason orders by January 15th. Mention this podcast, and you'll get the Rock Fight preseason special, a clean 2% off stacked on top of Livson's own preseason program discounts. Don't wait. Stock the brand that's burning hot in the outdoor world, the brand that's here for the long haul. Be a rock fighter, not just another retailer. Livson. Own less, live more. All right, it's time for the parting shot. You go. I think it's your turn to go first.
All right, I'll go first. So I there's no real reason to make a big announcement about this, but I'm going to be writing about this in the newsletter coming up for my first crack at the newsletter. But my parting shot is with. I want to go easy here because I understand I can't being a doctor has got to be very hard. I get it. I totally understand. Human bodies are strange. They're all different. Blah 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 blah. But I'm currently dealing with I would say horrific level issue on my leg right now.
From a body horror point of view, not like a health
body
point
horror.
of view. Right?
Yeah. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. But like if you just saw my leg and you thought it was part of like The Last of Us, like some sort of like hideous fungal zombie creature, like you would think that was like those special effects look great. And the reason I bring this up is because I thought it was an infected cut and went to the two different doctors, urgent care, and then when their treatment didn't get better, ER. Both of which diagnosed it as cellulitis, like a skin infection. And then finally, when it grew to the size of like a small football, I went to the ER again. I was like, what the fuck? And like this doctor was like, oh yeah, that's obviously poison oak. Like just really, really bad poison oak. So I just like, can like there's no recourse for us when like doctors get it wrong, right? Like I still have to pay the bills from the two that got it wrong. So like, I don't know if my parting shot is like, we should be able to get our money back. Like if you get it wrong, or like just, I mean, it's Marin County. You should know poison oak wounds around here. Like there's poison oak everywhere. Just do better. Sorry, doctors. I mean, I'm sure you do wonderful things. Thank you so much to the doctor that figured it out and has got me on the path
fourth
to healing.
visit.
But yeah, but it's just like, holy crap. I mean, it's 2024. I live in like a very wealthy place and like we're still bumbling around. Like, it looks like,
Yeah, this isn't like they
I
ran.
was on IV antibiotics for nothing.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got an IV put in for no good reason.
I might be like, I might be growing all kinds of like antibiotic resistant bacteria in me right now from like the cocktail of antibiotics I'm on for fucking no reason.
It is a really good point of like, this isn't like, has this odd growth and we've done all these tests and biopsies and we can't determine what it is. You know, it's like that kind of thing. This is like the fourth guy looked at it and was like, oh yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah, like I'm wondering, the first thing I thought of when I left the hospital again was like, does the first doctor get like a ping? Like, hey, by the way, you got that completely wrong. Like, does he even know? Right. And what's his reaction? Oh, well.
I mean, his performance review? Like, well, here are the cases you got right. Here's what you got wrong.
Yeah, like I have no, like I can't, what am I going to do? Go there and be like, hey man, you were totally wrong. And like, I'd like to have all the money back I'm going to have to pay for this stuff that you suggested that I do. Like, it's just...
All right, well, today my parting shot is for those who are defined by one outdoor activity, because going into temporary retirement, I've discovered kind of rules. Just before recording this, I got back from a bike ride and I really haven't been on a bike in months. So I'm kind of busting, to use a George Costanza-ism.
You don't mean now You've been on your turn. You mean a
Yeah,
real
no,
bike.
I've been riding. That's a good point. I have been kind of tooling around on the turn, but just sort of like locally on like not really gone on real bike rides. And so
Yeah,
I busted out my gravel bike today, and it just kind of had that like, oh my god, I forgot how much fun it is to ride my bike. And then, but can you look at what have I been doing since I stopped riding bikes? Well, I was mostly hiking. And I started doing that after a layoff. And when I started hiking, I'm like, oh my god, I forgot how much I like hiking. This is so cool. And so to be so enamored with like a singular activity, I think it's just leaving so much on the table. Like getting outside in different ways is just awesome. But when you do one thing for a while, I find it gets stale. So to leave that thing behind in pursuit of something else is like kind of like reconnecting with an old friend. The thing about today was like my legs weren't used to the motion. My ass wasn't used to the saddle. But just to kind of go rip around on a bike again, it just felt like, some of my best memories on a bike. So if you rely solely on the one thing too, like if you're just like, I'm a runner or I do this thing, I think you're kind of setting yourself up for disappointment because inevitably you're going to get hurt and you can't do that thing. Maybe it's temporary, maybe that's not temporary. So I think it's important to diversify your activities. Occasionally put one of them on the shelf, try something new, rediscover a thing you used to love. Being outside just generally rules, and it's to only do it one way, it's kind of lame. So that's my parting shot.
Here. I mean, I don't know if we've put it on the if we've ever included it on the website, but I have an article called Master of Some where I talk about how did we put that on the website?
I don't know. We should.
I mean, if you know about it, then we probably did. But where I talk about how surfing was that for me for so long, and it's just like
we did put it on the website.
In retrospect, it seems insane that it was like that was the only thing I really did.
Right.
And like I remember getting in arguments with people when I was like really fired up on surfing. It's all I just ate, slept, and breathed surfing. That's all I did. It's probably like maybe I was like 20 years old, and my friends would be like, "Hey, you want to go to the mountains for 3 days?" I'm like, "What if I miss a swell? Are you insane?" And like I'd be really high and mighty about it. Like, no, like nothing you could do up there would be as much fun as I have here. Just like so ridiculous, and like God, I could have had like a 20-year head start on so many of the things I love doing now. And absolutely, and like now when I surf, it's a completely different experience. Like it's fresh, it's new. Absolutely. If you're gripping too tight is like the easiest way to lose like the things that you love the most in your hobbies for sure. I
agree. And like I said, like after I had my second knee surgery, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to run much anymore. And I think about people who that might have been absolutely devastating for because like they're so defined by that activity.
Yeah,
it's like do some different stuff. Neighbor.
Yeah, I don't know what my next door neighbor would do if he couldn't run. Like it'd be.
Well, it's only going to get harder as you get older.
Yeah, you might get poison oak or infection in your leg that keeps you from being able to run.
And several doctor strips to figure it out. All right, the Rock Fight's a production of Rock Fight LLC for our guy, Justin Hausman. I'm Colin True. Thanks for listening. And he doesn't have poison oak. At least I don't think he does. Krista makes. I'm pretty sure he's poison oak free. If not, he definitely shouldn't see the doctors that Justin saw. But he's here to sing the Rock Fight song. And we'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.
Rock Fight.